Welcome to the beautifully chaotic world of herbalism, where I'm going to try and attempt to explain all the ins and outs of herbalism without putting you or me to sleep. My name is Brennan Lee. I run Moonlight and Muck Boots. Grab a cup of coffee and let's get into this, shall we? All right, let me set the scene for you. Let's say we are walking through our garden and it's early in the morning. We got coffee in hand and suddenly we just brush against some thyme. And that scent that you are smelling when you brush against that thyme, that is phenols. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Phenols are basically the protectors of the plant world. So they show up when a plant happens to be under attack or your body is under attack from pests or pathogens, inflammation, and it's lucky for us that they bring that same protective power to us. So what it's doing to protect the plant, it is also doing to protect our bodies as well. Part of this series is I would love to have people understand why the herbs work, not just that they do. All right, let's move on, shall we? So by the end of this video, my goal is to have you be able to sniff out phenols, understand what it is doing in your tea or your dinner, and build up your confidence when choosing the herbs that you are picking, especially when you're feeling inflamed, infected, or just plain off. If you see a tail, a cat just jumped into my lap. There are two main problems we face with phenols. One, the phenols are misunderstood as just strong smelling or spicy. That's incorrect. That's not all they do. Number two, there's a confusion between phenols in the whole herb versus isolated compounds like lab-made salicylic acid. So we tend to lump strong smells into one category, which is minty or sharp or, oh, damn, that's strong. But both smells and can indicate real active medicine. The tricky bit is phenols in a whole herb work differently than the concentrated stuff we buy at the store, saying in a pill form or in skincare. Willow bark is one of the base ingredients in aspirin. Oregano can help with inflammation. With willow bark, yes, you can go out and pull a piece of willow bark, chew on it, and in an emergency, that works as a type of aspirin and will reduce pain and inflammation. For oregano, that is something that you use over time and builds up in your system to slowly reduce inflammation over time. So if you're cooking with it, you're doing fabulous. You're building that up in your system and things are going great. Because whole plants come with context, willow bark, for example, contains salicin. But it also comes with tannins and flavonoids and bitter principles and multiple other things that make it effective. This helps the body process the salicin more. It also helps for it to be more gentle. It is akin to, let me think, getting medicine with a built-in support team. On the other hand, isolated salicylic acid in pharmaceutical form is potent and targeted, but lacks the checks and balances that we have in nature. And that is why it can cause upset stomach or thinning of the blood if overused. Normally, it's really hard to overuse herbs if they are not a toxic herb in the first place. For oregano, its essential oils have been shown to fight bacteria in lab settings, but drinking oregano tea won't sterilize your insides. It will gently support the immune system. It offers some antimicrobial effects. I personally don't drink oregano tea. I think that would be fairly not fun. I do cook with it an immense amount. Like it's an insane amount of oregano I cook with. So the effects of the oregano are being built up in my body continuously over time. And these are antimicrobial effects. They work on your mouth, throat, and gut with consistency and care given to how you are using it. The takeaway here is you respect the power, but understand the synergy of the whole herb. And we often just go, oh, this book says, let me grab this, let me grab this, and let me grab this. But why are we grabbing those things? That is what we are trying to answer with this series. For our scope today, we are going to be walking through the chemistry, character of phenols, what they do, where to find them, and how to work with them safely. We will talk about, I just scrolled past my notes. We are going to talk about how they support the immune system, they reduce the inflammation in the body, and help modulate pain, if I haven't said this enough times. This is what phenols do. This is the important part of the herb that you are using, not just the name of the herb or the fancy thing somebody told you to put in your garden a couple years ago. So we're going to talk about herbs like willow bark, oregano, thyme, turmeric, and rosemary. These are all pretty easy to use and fairly easy to grow. You can buy, I just spaced that word. You can buy turmeric online, and it is, what's that word called? Oh, I'm a gardener. And I forget words all the time. We'll come back to that. But it grows a root, and you use the root. That's a part of the turmeric you're using, and then it creates more from that root. My brain will kick back in a minute. So you don't need a fancy apothecary to practice herbalism. Yes, they're fun. They're pretty. They smell good when you open the doors, but completely and absolutely unnecessary. We are focusing here on things that you have in your kitchen or out in your garden that you can easily use at home to heal at home things. This does not replace your doctor. I know a lot of people would like to replace their doctor, but there are certain things a doctor can do that you cannot do at home. If you break a bone, go to the doctor. If you have severe illnesses, go to the doctor. Using herbs at home helps support your health, yes, but there are certain things that we do need doctors for. Now that's out of the freaking way. Let's move on. That was a little aggressive. Sorry about that. So we want to understand the process of phenols. And so that's what we're going to do. So phenols work best when they are part of the whole plant, like I've said before. That means steeping thyme for respiratory tea. You're steeping the whole plant. Okay, let me clarify. You don't have to steep the leaves, the stems, and the root. The leaves work just fine. You can keep in the stems. Cooking with the stems is a little rough because it's getting them in your teeth is not great. For willow bark, you can actually just chew the willow bark. Probably want to make sure there are no bugs on it, but you can chew it. Bugs might add a little bit of protein. You're fine. We probably ate plenty of bugs as kids. So we're also going to review those herbs I've already mentioned, which are probably the most commonly planted herbs, and you can find them at the grocery store, at a garden, at the farmer's market. They're pretty much everywhere. One thing is you don't want to just eat raw turmeric. And we'll get into ginger eventually, but you don't want to do that either unless you like really spicy things. I did not accidentally bite into raw ginger. I intentionally did it because I'm an idiot. It was not fun. That was strong. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Each of these plants on the screen right now carries phenols and part of its healing attributes. Some of them hit harder than others, and they have their own vibes, their own clean, spicy sting of whatever. And a lot of these can be pungent. All right, so we're going to break this down. And I am going to be looking at my notes for this. So if you notice the eyes going back and forth, there's a lot of information. One of the things I want to clear up is when you work with herbs, you are not expected to have all this memorized. That's not going to work. This is a lot of information, and any herbalist refers to books. I have books upon books upon books upon books, and you can't even see this side of my room, and there's more books. I reference these all the time when I am making my herbal remedies. So with that said, don't hold yourself to that level of knowledge. Having that memorized would be great. Actually memorizing it, come on now. No. All right. So moving on, we start with white willow bark. This, like I said, it contains salicin. It's anti-inflammatory and I have a hard time with the second word, mild analgesic. So it is one of the quieter, gentler herbs. And it is surprisingly effective. It is not quite as fast acting as aspirin because that is synthetic. However, it does help to reduce pain and inflammation with a gentler touch. Your stomach probably won't get so upset. You can put this into a tea or a decoction. Basically, you boil some water, you toss it in, you let it steep for about 10 to 15 minutes. Don't burn yourself when you're drinking it. Oregano is our scrappy little fighter guy. He is bold, he's warming, he's sharp. It is the one you want to pull out when things are feeling like they're going south. You're not quite sick yet, but you got that tickle in your throat. Your nose is just doing something weird. Your mouth is feeling a little dry for some reason. And you're like, I know these symptoms. I know these symptoms. And you're wanting to fight it off beforehand, slowly working that into your diet and drinking some tea, which I'm not doing. I just eat with it regularly. Again, oregano tea just does not sound appetizing to me, but you can do it. On that note, that was a very weird face. I apologize. Thyme is another thing I cook with on a regular basis. So thyme is basically your multitasker. It's your mom or wife or girlfriend who's running around with a chicken with her head cut off. And I assume there are men that do that too. But typically in my world, I see women who do this. And that is thyme of the plant. That's the plant world's version. So this one is something that most people have in their kitchens anyway. It is great for your respiratory support, especially if you infuse it into honey to make a tea with. That spicy bit, that is thymol, however you want to pronounce it. And it's an active phenol within thyme. I was going to say something else. Well, my hand is up like this, but obviously I forgot what that was. So for turmeric, it grows underground. That's a portion that we are going to use. We're not using the leaves of turmeric. We're using the underground root of turmeric. So think of it that way. It's very grounding. And the phenols in that are called curcumin, and they support inflammation responses across the body. This is especially helpful on things like joint pain. So think of golden salve. That's made with turmeric. And you're putting in turmeric and you're steeping it in some, say, beeswax and coconut oil. And you're heating it up. It's going to turn golden. And it will turn anything it touches golden. So be aware of that. And then you rub that onto, say, your joints. Any joint that is hurting, it will soak in through the skin and help with that inflammation. Then we come to rosemary, and she's basically your cheerleader, chick of the herbalism world. So she is great for circulation and your brain. You can literally pick a sprig of rosemary, sniff it. That's what this means. This means sniff it. And that helps to awaken your brain. It can give you just a little bit of a rush to energize you through the day. It does smell very, very good. I do have to admit, I love the smell. But in history, it's actually known as the herb of remembrance. So that would be why. It does help stimulate brain activity. So we also have sage, which is another herb that is very strong in phenols. And I'm not talking about the white ceremonial sage. I'm talking about your normal, average kitchen sage. And this is more of a green color when you're taking it off the plant, where ceremonial sage looks whitish or gray and it's way fuzzier. And you probably don't want to cook with that. I don't think that would taste good. But your kitchen sage is extremely astringent, which is why we don't cook with a whole bunch of it. It's like 1 to 2 leaves for an entire vat of something. It's very sharp and it's cleansing, can be a little drying, so you want to be careful, but this is really good for, say, sore throats, using it as a gargle, anything where there's extra moisture or inflammation. If you notice, a lot of these all have that inflammation thing going on because they're phenols. Each of these herbs does offer a slightly different angle on the type of phenol that it contains, but when used together or separately, yep, you can make your own thing out of this little group right here. And I think all of these, just looking over them, you can easily grow in your garden. Oh, white willow bark might be a little more difficult because if you're in a city, you want willows nowhere near any source of your pipes. Don't do it. They chase water and they will grow directly towards your pipes. Don't put a willow tree in your backyard if you live in the city. I dream of having willows. I love willow trees. I really want them. Let's bring all this home, shall we? Imagine oregano isn't just a seasoning. It supports your immune system. Your willow tree isn't just beautiful and shady, it's pain relief. You can probably find somebody who has a willow tree. Just make sure what type of willow tree it is and clean the bark before you use it. These aren't just like handy, trendy herbs. These have been proven to work over time and through studies, and even before studies were a thing. You don't need to be flashy. You don't have to have a fancy teapot. You don't have to have a fancy strainer at all. This is a little embarrassing, but sometimes you just run out of things. But I had, those little knee-high socks. I had to buy some for something, and I had like this massive bag, and they were all clean. Never been used. It's fabric. It can strain things. I've used those to make a quick tea out of. Yes, you can use weird things. You don't have to be fancy about this. The more we understand what the plants have to offer, the more intentional our herbal practice can be. The more intentional our cooking cabinet can be. The more intentional our apothecary can be if we have one. And phenols are foundational. This is one of your bases of what you want to cover when you are creating something for you and your family. You also want to take into account, like, what are your family's issues? You don't want to be making a whole slew of things that don't matter to your family, that nobody's ever going to use. You want to focus on what's happening in my world, what's happening with my family, and what are the things that I want to protect them with in our home. The best part of all of this is that you probably already have these things. I would prefer the organic kind, which is a little bit pricier, but you also don't need much. You don't need a lot to make a tea. You don't need a ton to make a tincture. One of my things is I really want to make herbalism just really easy for everybody. So in this series, we are not going to go through some crazy, weird, random freaking things that's hard to get your hands on. I love my herbal remedy books. The problem is a lot of them call for things that we have no access to. Like I can't get that. So, or it's so astronomically expensive that it's just, I can't afford that. Most people can't afford that. So with this, we have them. They're in our kitchen. We cook with these things. We can find them easily at the grocery store, even in an organic form. Even if it's not organic, it may not work as well because it's been through a process to kind of cut out some of the things. But it is still effective and you can still use it. Don't let the cost or thinking you have to have a fancy apothecary keep you from starting to use herbs in a more thoughtful way for you and your family. And on that note, if you like these types of videos, please like, subscribe, and share. And then drop in the comments if you have a favorite remedy or a go-to plant in your garden that you use for just about everything. For me, it's basil. I love basil. Basil is my favorite thing in the world, specifically Genovese basil. Grows amazing, huge leaves, and amazing, amazing flavor. All right, guys, thank you. And I hope you have a blessed and magical week. Bye, y'all.